talking about proposed research or research that we're trying, like getting started and doing and we like feedback on. And so this is originally what I wanted to go to grad school for, was this, and somehow grad school took a different turn and this is not what I ended up studying. And so now that I'm done, I would like to start it again. So I want to look at how America creates serial killers. And so, and I've incorporated Karina because she likes research and she'll keep me on track. So, the purpose of this is that America has the highest rate of serial killers in all industrialized nations, right? And a couple places you can see that is in the Huffington Post and Radford University, right? And so usually we look at serial killers like, oh, they're crazy, right? It's something with them. It's a psychological issue, right? Like that's how we traditionally look at this. But if we have the highest rate of them, then there's clearly something about our society that is creating them. It's not just a bunch of crazy people, right? And so I want to understand what it is that we're doing or what pieces of our society are creating them.
Yes, and one of the interesting things is, I don't know if you have noticed, but most of the time when it has to do with criminal behaviors, or they're like, we have two perspectives, right? But also we're thinking about race and ethnicity, because we're thinking about, okay, well, we kind of like really let the psychology field to take over on these type of topics, right? So, but we're also looking as to who gets really labeled as mentally unstable. But when we bring it back to the sociological perspective now, we're really looking about socialization. How is it that socialization is so powerful to the point that it can really shape the way how people end up committing these crimes?
So again, the research question is, what factors in American society create these people, right? How do we create our own monsters? Because that's how we look at them. Okay. I mean, Eileen Wuornos in the movie Monster, right? Like that was literally the title. Okay. So the way that we want to look at it is using existing data. So autobiographies that these people have written, biographies that have been written, interviews that have been conducted with them, and statistical criminology data. So how many serial killers do we have? How many have we had over the years? What color are they? What gender are they? What sex are they? What class are they? Right.
And here are some of the theoretical frameworks that we're looking at. Symbolic interactionism really being at the core of this. Looking at how is it that when we interact with each other, our brains start really like pick up how is it that we behave with each other. And also conflict theory, thinking as to, oh, well, maybe some of these people have the need to go and commit these crimes. So what is it behind it that is actually motivating them to commit these crimes? And of course, exchange theory, on which we're looking at an immediate gratification that's happening from the point of view of the perpetrator. I am doing this with this purpose, whether it's for financial gain or for self reasons. I am doing this, but I'm automatically getting the result. But it's all self-centered.
And so our hypotheses are, one, the individualism in American society, right? So like I said, Eileen Wuornos in the beginning. How many of you know who that is? Okay, so she was like the first female serial killer that we really talked about and studied, right? And she had a violent history, right? She was sexually abused by family members. She was pregnant at 9 years old. She was smoking cigarettes, dropping out of school, and people were like, oh, that's that family. They're just messed up, right? Like it's their problem. Because isn't that how we are as Americans? They're not my problem, but it's your problem when now they're killing people, right? Or when something's going on in society, now it's all of our problem, right? And so that individualism, not wanting to get involved, is part of the problem, but also the want to be famous or to be known, right? So BTK, blind, torture, kill, the serial killer, he wanted to be famous and he wanted power. And well, not famous, he wanted to be infamous, right? Famous for a bad reason. And so he wanted to have some of these things, and that's all individual, me. It's about what I get out of this life, not what I give to this life or what I can contribute. It's what I'm taking, right? And then also the socialization of the family.
Yes, and for socialization of the family, we're looking at socioeconomic struggle as well, because if you really think about it, a parent who is really so worried about not having enough money to pay the rent, to pay their bills, they're less available to really socialize their children. So they depend more and more on daycares and also other family members, or even people people in their own building that may charge them like a fraction of what they will pay for if it's like a licensed childcare facility. So all the socialization is not being done by the parents. So you start seeing the class struggle and with socialization of the family.
And so then we also see some intersectionality, right? Where race, most serial killers are white, right? And not only are they white, they're white men, right? So it tends to be gendered. And they're white men who tend to target women, right? So there's more gender there. Okay? And so part of what I was wondering and what I'm maybe expecting to find is that white people feel like we're losing our power. And so especially white males feel that they're losing their power. And so they're doing this as a way to exert their dominance, right? That's something I've kind of wondered about, but we'll find out in the research if that's true. And then also socioeconomic status. Some research points to the fact that they might be lower to middle class, right? It's not really an upper class thing, or at least not in the same rates.
Yes, no, and an interesting thing about this is that the females who have been serial killers, they have done it mainly because of economic reasons, financial gain. So you start seeing how gender really plays a different, because you have a group of serial killers who do it like for sexual gratification, for example, but for most of the women, and you have like different variables. For men, the reasons why we kill people, but for women, most of them are for financial gain, which is very interesting. Especially now we're thinking about the feminization of poverty and how those intersect with each other.
Yeah, and I think it was almost 50%, right, of men do it just for pleasure, right, just for their personal gratification. Right, so here's some charts. I don't know if you can see them very well, but so this goes 1900s to 2010. The U.S. serial killers by race, so white, 68% up to 76% in 1950, right, and then by 2010 it's only 34%. But what's interesting is that then all of a sudden black men, or black people, I guess it's not men, 31% in 1900, but then by 2010 it's 56.2%. So maybe some things are shifting, so maybe my theory is wrong, or not quite right. And then look at the rest, how small their numbers are in the zeros. The highest you get is 2000 at 10% for Hispanics, and the rest are in point something percent or single digit percentages.
And I think it was interesting also to find African Americans committing these crimes, because usually you get all the emphasis in the reports on the whites, but you also have African Americans who commit these crimes.
And then by gender, right, these are the actual numbers, so then the percentages. For men, it's 59%, 74. In 2010, it's 94.4% of them are men. Women, in 1900, 40% of them are women, but now only 5.6% are women. So the numbers have gone down for women.
We're thinking about the oppression back then and how women used to be so dependent on men for, economic reasons. Women did this the most for financial gain.
Yeah, and it also kind of, as we're talking about this, maybe the Black Widow theories, that they're killing husbands and boyfriends for money. Back then, because they couldn't work, once they could work, right, 1960, 1970, we could work, right, like, things have changed. So this is something that I'm intrigued by. But at this point, that's all that we have, so thank you.